I do not have a session host or a room host, so you get me the whole time. So you guys are here for extension attributes, 1270 or something like that, I think is the number, but we'll go ahead and jump on into it. Thanks for coming out. Last session, we'll try not to make it like a 2-hour session. We'll make it quick so you can hit lunch and get out of here, because I know we all want some rest after the party last night, right? All right, so our usual forward-looking legal statement. You can read it later. Real quick, so what's new in extension attributes, an admin's journey? At the very end of the slide, if you've ever been in one of my sessions, I have a QR code that links out to a GitHub page that has a PDF of this presentation along with the videos and scripts and EAs and stuff. So no need to throw your camera up unless you absolutely want to. Sit back, enjoy, take notes. I guess if you want to take a picture of the resource page at the end that has the QR code, it also has a bunch of links on there as well. Second thing, I was gonna say something else and it just went right out my head. So we'll jump in. All right, so I am Steve Wood. I am a sales engineer here at Jamf. I've been with Jamf for about 4 years now. Prior to that, I was a Jamf admin for about 13 years, managing a very large fleet globally. And I've been doing Apple in the enterprise for like 30 years. So I've kind of been there, done that, have the t-shirt and the scars to show it, the whole 9 yards. Who has been in the extension attribute session the last 2 years and kind of been on this journey with us? Anybody? Okay, yeah, like Austin and Nashville. So this is kind of a continuation story, right? So we've kind of weaved this story. Prior years, the 2 prior years, I had one of my colleagues, Lee, with me. He's no longer with the company, unfortunately. So he's here in spirit, but he couldn't be here. So let's jump in. First thing we're going to talk about, what are extension attributes? Why are extension attributes important to us? I decided that I was going to embrace the AI this year, and so first thing I did was I went out to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT, very generally, what are extension attributes? And this is what ChatGPT came back with. And I think the key is that, like, in there, when the standard set of attributes doesn't meet all your data needs, that's kind of where extension attributes come in. It gives us the ability to extend the data that we have available to us. And so I took it a step further and I said, okay, ChatGPT, how about when we're talking about MDM? What are extension attributes? And this is what it came back with. And very similar, right? Ability to extend data in our data set. And so I took it one step further and I thought, you know what, I better use our product. So let me ask the Jamf AI assistant, and this is what it came back with. Very specific to Jamf Pro. Extension attributes help you customize or gather extra information past the data that's in Jamf Pro. So that's kind of the why. The why is, let's extend the data. So if there's information on a machine that you need that doesn't necessarily come in with the standard inventory update, right? We gather something like 200 and some inventory characteristics about a device, things like hardware, operating system, when applications are installed. But a lot of times, there's other information that you guys want. Maybe it's specific versions on an app or some app that is not in the standard /applications folder, right? Maybe we have something stored in library that we want information about. Or we just want to store information that is a text field that we want to store about, I don't know, license keys or things like that. That's where extension attributes can come in and they can help you out. So what are the types of extension attributes? Well, the first one is that one I just kind of mentioned, which is a text field. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just literally a free-form text field that you can use to store data. License keys, whatever information you want, you can store in that text field. The next one is a pop-up type extension attribute. And a pop-up lets you control the values that are going to be stored in that extension attribute. So you're able to define exactly how you spell things like council, right? And we're going to spell it the American English way and not the British English way, or any other word. And that becomes important when you want to use them in smart groups, because you want to make sure that your smart group criteria is looking for a text field or a text item that is spelled a certain way. And so in order to make sure you're getting the right data, if you need that, pop-ups are your thing. The next one is a script-based extension attribute. This allows you to run a script during inventory that will populate that extension attribute. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I've got a couple of examples, and I'll kind of give you my opinion on what kind of scripts you want to run in an extension attribute, because they do impact inventory time on computers, okay? And the last type is the directory service type. The directory service type allows you to pull additional attributes in from your directory service, whether that's maybe Entra, Okta, an LDAP server, whatever your directory service connection is, the directory service extension attribute lets you pull in that attribute. So the big one that most people know of is the member of, right? So in the Entra world, we want to pull in all the groups. An extension attribute that's looking for the member of attribute will pull in all those groups. And that's something that was recently, like in last 6 months, finally fixed with Entra, right? It used to work great with LDAP, but because of the way Entra does group membership, that there is no member of, or the way member of pulls that data, we had to rework on the back end how the extension attribute works. So those are the types. Now, for the directory service, you do have to make sure that in your inventory collection preferences for computers and for mobile devices, that you have this checkbox checked. Now, if you're using a directory service and you're pulling in information to the computer record or the mobile device record already for that user and location tab, you've most likely got this checked already, because that's how that gets populated. All right, so we've kind of talked about the what and the why. Let's talk about the how. How are extension attributes useful to you? What are some workflows that we might be able to utilize extension attributes for? So for those of you that have been along in this journey, you probably remember our admin, Jill. Now, Jill started as a Jamf admin at a company, small company. It's a retail company. They got some retail locations, some warehouses, and of course, corporate. She did so well, right? The first year, she was looking at cradle to grave. What's the life cycle of a device? Last year, she started looking at some security things. She did so well in her job that Jill got promoted. Jill's now a manager. So she hired a new engineer named Brantley. And Brantley comes on as a senior client engineer. Brantley's got some Jamf Pro experience. And so Brantley starts doing what all new admins do. We start going through our Jamf environment that we just inherited and trying to clean it up and make it better. And so the first thing that he wanted to do was kind of freshen up the onboarding experience. And so Brantley heard about Jamf Setup Manager, and he decided that he wanted to deploy Jamf Setup Manager. Jamf Setup Manager is a kind of a replacement for DEP Notify. It runs during Setup Assistant. It lays down applications. You're able to control the applications that are coming down, the policies that are run. You're able to gather information, as you saw there. And this is all customizable, right? There's various different values that you can grab. And this data gets written into the computer record in Jamf Pro. It also gets stored in a log file local on the system. And so Brantley took a look at the log file, and he noticed that there was some values that were really important to him. This idea of when was the inventory submitted at the end, and how long did Setup Manager run? And so for user experience and for that cradle to grave life cycle of a device, he wanted to know when these devices were born. He wanted to know how long it took. And so he wrote an extension attribute. He actually wrote 2 extension attributes. One to pull in the date that the device was born, and the second one to pull in that provisioning length. How long did it take to build that device? And it's a really simple extension attribute. Both of them are. So it's just doing a cat on that log file, grepping out or awking out grepping it out and then awking out the exact values that he wanted, and then storing them in the result or in that extension attribute. Now, what does this provide for him? Well, that date one gives him the ability to run reports like this or advanced searches like this that say, hey, show me all of the machines that we built in 2025, right? And so we start with a before and an after date range, And that report or that advanced search will pull back all devices that are built during that year. Well, expand that out. What could you do with that? Well, I could look at how many I'm building per month, per week, per quarter. Those are reports that you can give to senior management to say, hey, here's how many devices we are building. I need more help. I need another technician to do this. I need. Here are the machines that I'm going to need for refresh, right, for budgeting purposes. Hey, how many machines are we going to need next year? Well, here's all the ones that were built 3 years ago, those types of reports. And then as far as provisioning time, how long did it take? Well, Brantley wrote this and said, hey, if anything took more than 10 minutes, that was his threshold. 10 minutes, I need to go look at those machines and figure out why they took that long, right? It's a big user experience thing. What do our users do? They sit there, they wait, they power cycle. This thing's not working. You hit the power button, turn it off. Wind up breaking your provisioning process, and they've got to start all over again, and they're waiting again and again and again, and then you get help desk tickets and phone calls and angry people. You guys know the deal. So this is what Brantley did, kind of a quality of life thing for his users. So Brantley then started looking at their mobile device fleet. Now, as I mentioned, they are a retail organization, so they had a lot of pre-stages for their mobile devices because they needed to be very specific in some of these builds. You wanted to have your POS devices, your purchase points. They needed their associates, their managers, their warehouse. So they built out separate pre-stages for each one of these roles, okay? Well, Brantley took a look at Jamf Setup. And with Jamf Setup, what Brantley was able to do was create a single pre-stage that deployed all of the applications, deployed the Jamf Setup Manager, used a config profile to hide everything, changed the wallpaper to red. Jamf Setup Manager is the only app that, or I'm sorry, Jamf Setup, not Jamf Setup Manager. Jamf Setup is the only app that's available. The user can click on that, so the technician, the store manager, whoever's setting these devices up, clicks on Jamf Setup. They now see all of the different roles that this device could fill, and they can choose the one that they need. When they choose that, it gets written to an extension attribute. So in this case, they chose warehouse device, which then populates a smart group, deploys a config profile, deploys the apps, changes the wallpaper. Now that device is set up for a warehouse device. Now, sidebar, if you really wanted to, if it was a shared device, we could throw in Jamf reset the device back to just Jamf Setup, and be able to change the role of that device. But in this case, this is what we're talking about. One other thing he wanted to do, though, was his POS devices. He never wanted those POS devices to change, and he didn't want someone to have to choose the role, so he used the inventory preload. Now, if you've ever used inventory preload, you probably didn't know that you can also pre-populate extension attributes with the inventory preload. It's as simple as just adding that one column that starts off EA and then the name of the extension attribute. So in this case, the extension attribute is called device role. He identified his devices that he wanted to be front-end POS devices, which one he wanted warehouse. And so now, whenever that device resets, if someone were to factory wipe that device, erase all contents, do a return to service, whatever it might be, those devices are going to build for those specific roles without having that whole Jamf setup, the red screen with the Jamf setup icon. They're going to go straight to the configuration for those roles forever until they're removed from the inventory preload or until that column is changed. So pretty powerful stuff. So next thing he did was Brantley decided to take a look at their updates. Specifically software updates to begin with. Last year we kind of touched on SOFA, the Mac Admins project. If you're not familiar with SOFA, this gives you a JSON feed of the Apple updates. It's really easy to parse and build stuff out. The one that he took, and this extension attribute is actually out on the SOFA GitHub, the one that he used was this displacement check. The displacement check looks at the major version of the Mac OS that's running on a device and determines how many major versions it is out of spec. So we're at 26 right now. If a device were running 14, that's what, 2 versions back, right? So they have this N-2 philosophy at the organization. No device should be more than two major versions back. So that would be OS 14 now. Of course, when I recorded this, it was OS 13, was it? So it was 15, 14, 13. But what he's able to do is, what you see here is do an advanced search or a smart group looking for this information. Now, he used a smart group, and what he did was, he then went out to Jamf Routines and created a routine that would send a message to a Teams channel to alert his users, or to alert the IT staff, the help desk staff. Hey, this device with this device name is 2 versions back. It's out of scope, it's out of compliance. And that's kind of what that message looks like in the Teams channel. You can do device name, you can do device serial number. There's a bunch of different attributes or variables that you can use in Jamf Routines to populate these messages. There's also a connector for Slack, so if you're a Slack shop, it'll work with Slack as well. Okay, so Brantley got done with the, kind of the operating system stuff, and he started looking at app updates. And he wanted to provide a way for his users to join a beta program, right? So he wanted them to be able to self-register and self-remove if they ever wanted to leave. And so he created a self-service policy with this join button. User clicks the join button, they get added to the beta group. They now see a category called beta testing that's got a couple apps that are for beta testing. Weeks go by, they decide, you know what, I don't want to do this beta thing. Now they can go back in, they hit the remove or leave button, and they're removed. So how did he do it? Well, he created a policy, and in that policy, he simply wrote a value out to a plist on the device that says yes with that key. He did the same thing for the leave. Instead of yes, it's now no. He then wrote an extension attribute, and all that extension attribute does is pull that yes or no value in, right? So you'll notice that the default value for result is, if the result value is blank, it writes out no, or if that plist is blank, I'm sorry. So if they've never run it, it's just gonna be a no, but then otherwise it reads that value in. And so this allowed him to provide that capability for his end users, and users can then join or leave whenever they want. So, next thing that he wanted to look at is waves or update rings as they're known in the Windows world. This concept of, I don't want to update everybody at once. I want to be able to do ring 1, ring 2, ring 3, ring 4, do them in order, in waves. And so he needed a way to kind of put devices into these rings. And so he went out to Rich Troughton's blog, Der Flounder, and he found this script that runs in the extension attribute to kind of randomly assign a ring to devices. Now, I'm gonna pause here just for a real quick second. I'm not a big fan of doing scripts in extension attributes, not big scripts like this, okay? Because of what I said before, they can cause inventory slowdowns. If you have problems with machines not checking in, not updating inventory, taking a really long time, it could be because you have an EA running a complex script. So what's the better way to do something like this? Kind of what I did in the last example, use a policy to run the script, write the value to a plist, read the plist into the extension attribute. Because then you've offloaded all of the heavy loading to the policy framework, to the policy mechanisms, and the EA is simply doing a simple defaults read, and it's that fast. So, unpause, let's go on. This is what those update rings look like. So he's able to now use smart groups to collect that information, see which ones he's got, use that for scoping, things like that. So he wanted to provide his help desk his technicians a way to update the status of a device, whether it's in use, whether it's on the shelf, whether it's out for repair. So he went out to concepts.jamf.com. He found Jamf Actions, which is a shortcuts plugin, if you will, that allows you to create a shortcut in the menu bar on a Mac that you can use for doing stuff like this. And so he utilizes this. I've got a video of this, so you'll see it in action in a sec. And it gives his staff the ability to just change that status out for repair. They don't have to go into the Jamf console. They can do it real fast and be able to update that information. So here's our video example of this. We're going to go up and we're going to hit that Jamf Actions. We're going to say change status, boom, provide the serial number, and away you go. And you'll notice that we'll refresh the page on this inventory record, and you'll notice that that has now changed to out for repair. Boom. Super simple, super easy. Barcode reader, you know, scanner, whatever. They get that information right in. It's real fast for them, and they're not having to hunt and peck on the keyboard. So the other thing he looked at was the deployment of updates, OS updates, App Store updates. And so he looked at putting caching servers in. So they put a bunch of caching servers into their organization, and then he wrote an EA that would pull the information from the caching server into the extension attribute. So how many gigs is it deploying? All of the stuff that you get. It's a real simple EA. It's literally just running the asset cache manager util and grabbing that information and putting it into the EA. Now, I wasn't able to figure out how to grep and awk the data so that you didn't get all of it. Apple's binary, for whatever reason, doesn't let you do it. I don't know why. You can do it in terminal if you ran it yourself, but running as an EA, it always produces everything. So that's the only downside to that extension attribute. But it does provide you a way to, again, run reports using advanced searches, doing smart groups, et cetera, to be able to find out what your caching servers are doing out in the field. All right, security. This is kind of the last section where Brantley started doing some changes. They have all the capabilities. They've got Jamf Connect deployed. So what did they do? They went and demoted everybody to standard user, right? Jamf Connect, they're able to do privilege elevation, but they didn't want everybody to just have access to privilege elevation. There were certain user groups that had it automatically, and then other groups that they wanted them to call the service desk, get permission, and have the service desk enable the privilege elevation functionality of Jamf Connect. And so again, using Jamf Actions, they gave their help desk staff this ability to put a device into scope for privilege elevation, right? So we're going to allow it. Again, that's using those pop-up EAs that I mentioned earlier. And you'll notice that in just a split second, privilege elevation will be there for the user. Right. So now the user can elevate. Maybe the help desk has a timer that says, okay, let's demote that user. So they're going to go back in. Now they're going to say deny, and we'll notice that it goes away. This is a good workflow for Jamf Routines as well, at least the deny functionality or that removal piece. You could schedule a routine to run every night and just flip everybody to deny. Right, so you don't have to manually go do it. It's a simple routine that does update of an extension attribute based on smart group membership. So device falls into that smart group, scheduled, 12 o'clock every day, deny, and then that gets removed. So, and this is kind of what that looks like, right? So this is down at the bottom there, you'll see that pop-up allow deny. This is the extension attribute. And then here is the smart group. We're simply looking for that allow value, and then we're just scoping that config profile, right? The beauty of Self-Service Plus, what I've noticed, Self-Service Plus with this workflow, it happens almost immediately. You don't have to quit Jamf Connect or Self-Service Plus for this to take effect. It swaps the profile, and that shows up almost immediately. It's been really nice. Okay. They had a lot of local admins out on the machines that they had put, and so they needed to figure out, they were going to convert over to our Laps solution, but they wanted to make sure that they were changing the password on that local admin account that they had created. So Brantley went out to Google, did a search, found this script on Stack Exchange, tested it, and tested it, and tested it. And basically what this does is it looks at one specific user and pulls in the password last change date. So he did this in a policy. He made it so it's reusable, so you can change the username, right? Added some parameters, told it which plist to go run this at. So he runs this policy once a week, and that policy writes to that plist file, and then we just read that plist file in with an extension attribute, and this is what he gets. So now he knows the last time the password was changed for that specific user. And so he can keep an eye on that. You can run that daily if you needed to. You can run it once a month, whatever you need. All right, Jamf Protect. So these are part of the extension attributes templates in Jamf Pro. You can get things like binary version, last check, plan ID, and what the Jamf Protect smart groups are. If you know anything about Jamf Protect, the way that Jamf Protect and Jamf Pro work together is that Jamf Protect, when it triggers an analytic, or an analytic gets triggered, you can write a value to a smart group, and that smart group gets updated in Jamf Pro like immediately, because what happens is Protect is writing the value and then updating inventory. So your Protect analytics can trigger workflows, remediation workflows in Jamf Pro, but it can also do more than that. It can also trigger workflows in Jamf Security Cloud. So we're basically elevating risk of a device based on this analytic writing to the smart group. So what does that look like? Device, in this instance, gets a launch daemon or launch agent written to it. The analytic trips, drops the device into a smart group in Jamf Pro. Because we have Jamf Pro and Jamf Security Cloud connected through UEM Connect, that triggers a move in Jamf Security Cloud to a different smart group, which then can be used to sever access to your internal applications, your SaaS applications, things like that. So what does that look like? Well, here we go. Here's our video. So we're going to just verify that this device does not have anything in that launch daemon smart group or EA. We see that our device is secure at this moment. We're able to go out to our SaaS application, which in this case is just a map my IP that we use for demo purposes, but I can get to that page. I'm now going to run a script that simply drops a launch daemon onto the machine and doesn't do anything else. That's all it does is write that launch agent. Jamf Protect has already picked that up. We're going to go look at Jamf Trust. Actually, we're going to go into Pro, sorry. And we're going to see that that launch daemon value is now in that smart group. And then once we see that, we're going to go check Jamf Trust. We'll see that the device is no longer trusted. It is in an insecure state. And we're going to go try to go back to that web page, and we're going to get blocked. So very easily, we've been able to mitigate an attack and cut them off from their access, right? We're able to make sure that our SaaS applications, our internal resources, whatever you've put behind Jamf Trust, they can't get to it. So, all right, one more thing. And this has nothing to do with extension attributes. This has to do with JNUC. So for all of you that had all of these sessions that you wanted to go to this week, that you had conflicts with, like, oh my gosh, there's like 5 sessions at 9 o'clock that I want to go to. I can only go to 1. They haven't figured out how to clone me. Here's a trick. Go out to your agenda, favorite every session you could possibly want. Your calendar will look something like this. But up there in the right corner, there's that Show Favorites button. Make sure you check that, and then hit that little down arrow. It'll give you the ability to download a CSV file of every session that you favorited, every session you registered for. Now, why is that important? In a month, when we release the videos, or in 2 months when they're out on YouTube, and you're going, you know, there was a session that I wanted to go to. I cannot remember what that session was. You've now got a list of every session that you could possibly want to go to, and you can watch those videos for the next year. So, pro tip. Hopefully that's a good one for you guys. And in summary, that's all I've got. Here's that resources page. There's that QR code. I'll leave this up on screen. The GitHub site is updated as of about an hour ago. In the README up there is my LinkedIn link. If you guys have any questions, if anything triggers any thoughts, you can reach me there. I'm available on MacAdmin Slack. I'm available. My blog is geekygordo.com. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me in any way. I'm always here to help the community and happy to help in any way. Thank you. So, we have our lovely friend here helping with QA. Are there any questions that we can ask? There's one right up here in front. He's going to make you come all the way to the front. You're going to get your exercise in, get your steps.
Hi. Thank you. I was not aware that you could put some extension attribute in the pre-inventory. My usage of that would be for Jamf Connect deployments, where I have to scope the profiles in a situation where I have people that have already using their computer, so I want to migrate them, and people that are brand new from the AD deployment. Would you think that would work if I put a pre-inventory extension attribute to say this guy is for migrating, this guy is for direct AD, and I could use that in a smart group to scope the profiles from Jamf Connect? Would be fast enough?
So I think what I heard was, you guys are migrating.
Some are to be migrated with, profile Jamf Connect login 1, and some no. So profile number 2, let's say, that I have to scope in the pre-stage. And it's always a pain, this pre-stage of the profiles for Jamf Connect situation. What we do today is we try to do some smart groups based on if you are into AD enrollment past this date, then you get that, and so on. But would it work with the pre-inventory to update directly my smart group? And I could use that at the pre-stage to scope the profile. Would you think it would work?
It could.
I'm
having a really hard time hearing because the speakers are that way. So let's go offline with it.
Yep.
Good? I want to answer it. I'm having a really hard time hearing it and understanding it. That's all.
No problem.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, come on. I did that good that I answered every question you could possibly have. All right. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here at JNUC this week. I hope that you guys all had a wonderful time and learned lots and lots of things, but more importantly, that you made connections with your fellow peers, and those hallway tracks were as important to you as they always were to me when I was coming as an admin. So travel safe back to wherever you're at, and thanks for coming out.